say hey to you.
How did you get your screen? Oh, all right.
Hi, everybody.
Your jacket's on the
Long time
floor.
no see. Julie, how are you?
Probably dirty, I don't know. It'd be nice to have a light.
Everyone's great.
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice to
No
not have
sickness yet or nothing.
Oh, the bug
Everything's
is gone?
good.
No, it's
Life's
fine.
good.
I get it again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
Everybody
happy about
knows
that.
that.
Hi, Shane.
You were the first.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me, my wife, me, and then you. Imagine.
We're just getting ready for YouTube now.
I love that for you. That's March. We're in April.
Yeah, let's go. Let's turn these on. Hit the button. Go ahead and turn your buttons on, dear Kurt. All right, we're all green. And then, go ahead, Barb. All right.
I don't like change. I don't like when things change.
Live over there. Buttons over here. I got 2 minutes, everybody. Huh? That smells nice. Thank you. It's girl stuff.
I live with a few. I know.
Sure, absolutely.
They're not gonna like this reorientation of the room.
No, Allison, can I?
No.
It's summer mode.
But it feels like fall.
Feels like winter. I had a hat on, my winter coat, and my hose today.
The weather. Feels like fall.
Ready?
Feels like winter.
Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock on April 8th, and we will call the Winchester Board of Education meeting to order. Please join me in standing with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As a matter of housekeeping, everybody that is on the board, these devices are relatively new to us. The good news is you don't have to lean in anymore, and people at home generally can hear you very well, very well. That's my understanding on the other side. The camera's still up there. It does move as you speak, a little bit like an owl. Everything needs to be on green, and for the public, the same is there for you. The speaker's up front on the table. You don't need to lean into it. It'll pick you up pretty well, okay? But if we would call the roll call, starting on my left.
Tori Lavetri.
Jonathan Morehart.
Kurt Warner.
Sandra Strubar.
Nora McCarsky.
Julie Luby.
Renee Waldron.
Jeanette Broder.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And Allison is excused. We also have one more member on the phone, Shane.
Shane Cintrella as well. Hello.
Okay,
Yep.
okay,
As
so
well.
Shane is joining us by phone. Okay. Item 2, approval of the agenda. Do we have any items to add or rearrange?
I would like to add an item to the agenda.
Okay. And the item?
I would like to add, look at the contract with Gilbert, and discuss presenting it to our legal counsel.
Okay, could you give a little bit more background to members here and to the audience a little bit? Because you said the contract.
Yes, I'm asking for a motion to start the due diligence process to review and accept an attached agreement between the William L. Gilbert School and the Winchester Board of Education to be reviewed by legal counsel.
But right now, we just want to add it to the agenda. yeah.
Okay, where do you want to add it?
But right after superintendent's report, or before that. Let the kids do their thing so that they can go.
So is this under
after-
communication, or is this information item?
This will be an action item. Right?
I think so, yeah.
Will be.
Is that what the motion is? Under
Yes.
item 8,
Yes.
as item A,
I'll second.
as an action item? Okay,
I'll second the new action item.
We need to vote to add it.
we do need to, that's a one motion. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
From Jonathan? Okay. And moving under action item for item A. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Aye.
Voice vote. Because,
Well, right,
Aye.
Tori LaVetra, yes.
Jonathan Morhart, yes.
Kurt Warner, yes.
Sandra Strubar, yes.
Nora McCarthy, yes.
Shane
Opposed?
Centrella, yes.
Shane, okay. Opposed?
Renee Waldron opposed.
Jeanette Broder was yes, sorry.
Okay. This motion carries to put onto the agenda under action items. Are there any other items to add to the agenda? Okay, before we move forward into student showcase, I do want to make comment to that motion. I voted yes to put it onto the agenda, but I do want to remind the community that we spent some time as a Board of Ed for the last 10 years to bring trust to this community. Coming out of receivership, we felt it was very important to be transparent with the community, and we worked for that for 10 years to earn the trust back of the community. And one of the processes of bringing the trust back into the community is to have packets available for the public that, to extent possible, be clear and complete. I'm a little disappointed here that I learned of this proposed item yesterday, and Superintendent Luby learned of it yesterday. So I'm disappointed that this moved around the normal process. Typically, when persons talk about contracts and MOUs or whatever, discussions and deliberations between Winchester Schools and the Gilbert School Trust and the corporation, typically, this has been in consultation with the two superintendents. So I have to express my disappointment about this process, having learned about it yesterday. I'm interested in hearing what has to be said. I'm a little confused about why it's an action item. Typically, a subcommittee gets formed of both parties, and in the past, we've tried to negotiate twice where we've had subcommittees where the school corp would meet with members of the Winchester schools. So I'm very disappointed and confused why a contract is coming to us without the membership fully being aware that a contract was seemingly negotiated, unbeknownst to me, unbeknownst to our superintendent. And I'm not sure, on understanding the parties, why it seems to be omitting the public and omitting the members of this board. Negotiation typically is in open, in good earnest and honest. And I just have to say that I am disappointed, but I am interested in hearing what was apparently discussed. But I do have to say I'm very concerned about item 8 as an action item.
At all?
Okay, Item 3, student showcase. I do have to remind us, though, of this vision and mission statement that we have as a district. The mission of the public schools, the Winchester Public Schools, is to provide all students with a high-quality curriculum and instruction that supports their academic and social potential, while celebrating the values of kindness, perseverance, and citizenship. Okay. Item 3, student showcase.
That's you, right? So this evening, Ms. Reyes, our wonderful Hinsdale music teacher, is here with some Orff instruments and a group of kindergartners, and I'll let her tell you what they're going to do for us.
Hello, don't mind me, I'm just setting up. Although it's not about me, just wanted to introduce myself. Like you said, my name is Elizabeth Reyes. I am a resident of Winstead my whole life, and I moved away for college. I came back because teaching in Winstead was my dream job. I wanted to come back and bring the music education to the community that I didn't receive when I was here, and I'm happy to be back and hopefully sharing my dream with everyone else. All right, Gabriel, Ellie, Jacob, and where's Casper? Casper, come on up here. Come on. So, these are our youngest students. This might be their first time performing, other than our concert, which had about 500 people. That's different because you're with a lot of other people. So this is a little bit scary, but they're gonna do their best. What we've been working on is improvisation and exploration of Orff instruments. You've probably seen them played in orchestras or symphonies, and what the students have been doing is literally exploring them. We talked about how we would feel them, touch them, what kind of materials are they made of. We would usually explore something, maybe feel it, lick it, because we're not licking the instruments. And so they then got to use them with their hands before getting the other ones, which are these. Do you guys remember what these were called? Mallets. And so then they got to use the mallets. Casper and Jacob, do you guys want to be on that back one? And Gabriel and Ellie, you can be on this front one? Okay. And so when we improvise, the wonderful thing is we've learned is there are no wrong answers. So many times in schools, there's so many stipulations, we're put in a box, and we get scared to try because we're afraid we would fail. And so the wonderful thing about improvisation, and especially at this age, is that there is no wrong answer. Everything we do is correct. We can put on rules and regulations where I can shrink them down to 3 or 5 notes, which they've done, but tonight they're going to be able to have free range of the whole thing, and they're going to focus on improvising with different rhythms, improvising with different dynamics, being volume, whether they're playing loud or soft, and also they're going to move around across the whole thing as long as they land on their tonal home. Can you guys all find your tonal home for me? Go ahead and play that C nice good. Tonal home is usually the key we're playing in. That would be the home note or do. Awesome. All right, I'm going to get out of the way because it is not about me, my friends. Gabriel, could you play us something? Would you like to play us something? All right. Your cat, sorry, Gabriel, can you move down a little bit? That way Ellie has some space. Nice. Casper and Jacob, do you want to try something together? Yeah, can I play with you? All right, Jacob, can I borrow and play? And then maybe you can play with me. Ready? Go ahead. All right, that's gonna be all for our showcase. They did an awesome job, and mind you, when they improvised, these aren't rehearsed. The students didn't, they planned to play exactly what they did. They made this up on the spot. You've probably seen a lot of improvisation in jazz, and this is that early readiness. So when they get older, they're more comfortable with these instruments. They start to know the notes, and so when they get into older grades and they get up to Pearson, they might be able to play more complicated pieces, but this is their very first experience, and making it just as kid-friendly as possible. And they did awesome. Unless you have questions, I'm not sure.
Has it been something that you've learned from family as well, or have you just been interested in these instruments on your own? Either one.
Do you guys have xylophones at home? No? Do you have xylophones? No, just in music class, that's what we decided.
Okay, it's time to teach people at home then, wouldn't that be exciting, huh?
Are they all made of the same materials though? Nah, boys. These are made of pottery, what are sometimes these made of? Metal and wood, nice job, Casper.
All right, fantastic work. Keep up the practice.
Thank you so much, Ms. Reyes. That's for the showcase, yep.
Okay, all right. All right, we'll move on to item 4, public comment. The policy of the Board of Ed is to allow public comment for individuals that wish to speak. The Winchester Board of Ed welcomes you to our public meeting. We appreciate your adherence to the following. There should be on the table there a request for information in the sign-on sheet. If you wish to speak, have your name, your address, and your email. State your name and your address in your, not your email, state your name and your address when you wish to speak. You will be allotted 3 minutes to share your comments. Please be advised it's not the practice of the Board of Education to engage in dialogue regarding commentary. The superintendent of schools will be directed by the chairperson to prepare an appropriate response in a timely manner. Thank you.
As a lot of you know, my name is Cheryl McGlynn, and I actually used to sit on this board with you, with most of you. I was on this board for 6 years. My address is 61 Letton. During that time, I was very much involved in contract negotiations with Gilbert. Several times we tried. One of the bases of a contract was Gilbert felt they needed a contract so that they could get bonding to do capital improvements. Through what I've heard in the last day or two, that is the reason behind the contract now. They tried to claim that the statute, in order for them to get bonding or to get funding for capital improvements, requires them to have a 10-year contract. That's inaccurate. For those that don't know me, I'm also an attorney. Now, we proceeded with this before. What the statute requires is that Gilbert maintain a relationship as the primary school, designated high school, for the district for 10 years after completion of the contract. Not that they have a 10-year contract at the time they seek bonding. So even if we were to enter into a 10-year contract, that would not cover their bonding concerns. They'd have to continue with that relationship. The concerns I have is that, which some of you expressed by Nora today, is that I don't understand why a contract was negotiated behind the back of the Board of Education. I don't know whether there's members on this board, aside from Mr. Werner, who brought it to the committee, the board, who were involved in those negotiations, but I've heard rumors that certain other people were, including the superintendent at Gilbert, a member of the Gilbert board, and Jay Case, as well as maybe a Board of Selectmen. Those are not people who should be involved in negotiating contracts for the Board of Education. The practice is to involve the 2 superintendents and members of both boards. In order for Gilbert to qualify for bonding, not only do they have to have a long-term relationship with the district, they also have to have members from this board on their board. They have that. That's the only requirement to make them eligible, and except for the long-term relationship to avoid a clawback. Now, why this was done this way, Cass, doesn't make it sound like it's going to be an appropriate contract. Why are we going to commit to a contract with Gilbert for 10 years when they have not demonstrated fiscal responsibility? Their performance record has been poor. Our students are not getting a great education there. I understand they're a designated school. We don't have a lot of options unless we go to school choice. But do we want to, is it fiscally responsible for this board, this town, to commit to a 10-year financial arrangement with a school who doesn't show the fiscal responsibility? There have been times when there have been over 84 classes that had 10 or fewer students in them, but those classes aren't performing at significant rates. They should. You had that ratio. you should have really good grades, but they're not having it. They're not performing at the level. They don't seem to recognize the fiscal needs and concerns of this community. That is a problem. There have been members of this board who have sat on the Gilbert board who have been frustrated in trying to arrange contracts and agreements, try to get them to team with us. If we're going to have a contract with Gilbert, there should be something addressing the tuition. How is that going to be calculated? What say are we going to have in it as a board? Is there going to be arbitration? So if they submit something to us, because what people may not understand is that under the current law, unless it's modified by a contract, whatever bill Gilbert sends us, we by law have to pay. We have no say. That's very frustrating. We have say as for the 4 members of our board who are on their board. However, those members are always in the minority, so they're always outvoted when it comes to fiscal concerns. So I don't understand why this board was bypassed. I think it's insulting. I think every member on this board and our superintendent should be insulted that they were treated as if they were not significant to this negotiation. Asking to submit a contract simply to our lawyers for review is not appropriate. This needs to be a committee. This needs to be a full, proper, and transparent negotiation. And honestly, I think our community needs to be involved in determining whether we want to commit to a long-term reservation, a long-term contract with Gilbert, considering our fiscal difficulties and their lack of concern for that. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Oh,
Hi. Christine Rylander, 46 East Mountain Avenue. I am here tonight and I'm supposed to be celebrating my daughter, who is going to be speaking on behalf of Pearson Middle School. Instead, I walk into this meeting and I am completely blindsided by a contract I didn't know existed between Gilbert that was written without community input, without the community knowing about, and it is an action item. We need to be a part of this discussion. We are the taxpayers of this town. If you look at even the social media posts, residents and taxpayers of this town are infuriated by the fact that we are paying for 2 superintendents. We are gonna sign a 10-year contract with a school that does not take on any of the cuts that are asked by our Board of Selectmen year after year after year. This needs to be something that is done with the public's eyes, with us being able to share our opinion before this becomes an action item. I am also asking if there is a committee that is being formed and there are community members that are going to be a part of that committee, I also request to be a part of that committee. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. Jay Case, West Wakefield Boulevard, also state representative. I was not part of the contract negotiations. I don't even know the document, so thank you. I just want to start off real quickly. Winchester is an alliance district. I don't know if anybody knows what an alliance district is. I know when Nora spoke the other night at the budget meeting, I need to get more money. So I did my due diligence and I went to the commissioner. Alliance District protects us. We can never go below the $8.9 million that we get. We can never go below that unless we petition to get out of the Alliance District. And per the superintendent, we're above the 50% percentile of performing with our district. So we can petition to get out of that. So there's 36 Alliance Districts right now. When the budget is put together that we get at 3 o'clock in the morning before we vote on it, those 36 Alliance Districts are put in one bucket. The rest of the state's put in another bucket. The rest of the state doesn't know if their funds are going to go up or they're going to go down. We know ours isn't going to go down. So we are protected. The town is also eligible for CIF funding, Citizens Investment Fund. So far, grants to the town in the past 4 years since that fund has been, since we're Alliance District, $1.4 million has come to the town. That's for a project up on Spencer Hill. So Alliance District has some good things. If we don't want to be part of it and we want to get more money, Commissioner says petition to get out of it. We can always look for more money, but you'll be in that pot with everybody else. And I think, Nora, you know, that pot for ECS, that calculation, nobody knows what that is. That's done behind closed doors, and we get that at 3 o'clock in the morning with our runs for our town. Alliance District protects us. Our monies will never go down from the state of Connecticut. When you talk about, after your meeting, I called the commissioner. She was in Washington DC at a conference. She called me back at 9:30 at night. She says, "What are you calling me for?" I said, "I've been told I need to find more money for my district. What can you do?" Anybody know who the commissioner is? She is the financial person who took us out of receivership. She was here for 4 months working on, or almost 2 years working on the receivership. She is now the commissioner of education. She loves this town. The second person involved was Cassie Dempsey. She is now the CFO of the Department of Education. She was here with an office at Bachelor School, got us out of receivership. Commissioner Wenzel was the commissioner at the time. She brought me and got the relationship with me with Russell Tucker so that we can make sure Winston keeps moving forward. That's why Cheryl Russell Tucker, the commissioner, picks up the phone when I call, she answers it. Her first comment to me, the study from 2023, which was study for funding for Gilbert School. Where do we stand with that? I said, it's not done. Call me when it's done. We'll talk about more funding. This study was put in a budget document with 800 pages. It was stuffed in the middle. I didn't ask for it. I asked on the House floor, where did this come from? Somebody from your district asked for it to be put in. I didn't. So guess what? The study got done. 36 pages. The recommendation from the commissioner, get a long-term contract with the Gilbert School, and then we can talk about more funding. It's all in here. Contracts are in here. There's 4 different contracts within this document. I know I've sent this to Nora. I've sent it to the whole board when this study was done on May 8th of 2023.
1 minute.
Everybody has it. So I would love to answer questions. I know I can't hear, but guys, per Nora's direction at that meeting, she got very intense, and we all want to do good for our students. Go find us more money, J-Case. I called the commissioner. Get my study implemented. Come talk to me. At 9:30 at night. She didn't mean to do this study. She didn't want to do this study. It was put in legislation, Public Act 22-118. She was forced to do the study. The study's out. There's 4 other contracts in here. We are one of 3 quasi-private schools. We have Woodstock Academy, Norwich Academy, and the Gilbert School. No matter what, Gilbert is going to be here. If we go elsewhere, if we want to build our own school, she has to approve it. She knows we have a school in our district. She's not going to give us the $200 million to build a new school. She has told me point blank, find something with a relationship with Gilbert, as it says in here, and come back and talk to me. And that's what I will do. I will keep the lines of communication open. Nora, you know, when you call me, you text me, I try to get back to you. And one other thing that says that night, there's a lot of mandates. There's 52 more mandates coming this year for education. I never vote for a mandate that is unfunded to the towns. And you know that because I talk to you about it when you email me or text me on certain things. If we're not going to fund it out of the state of Connecticut, I'm not going to send it to our municipalities. So let's get something going. Let's make a relation. Let's make Winston what it should be. I've lived here all my life. I don't do this for fun. I do this because I care about the community. If I want to go get more funding, and the commissioner says something that her department did is not being instituted, I have no say. She's not going to give me anything unless even we go back to her and say why we're not doing it. Nothing has been done since 2023 when that report came out. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is Bill Hudock. I live at 232 Granville Road. I'm confused, and I'm hoping that as this contract issue is laid out during the latter part of the agenda, that 3 things get answered. One is who was involved in negotiating the contract. And if a member of the Board of Education was involved in it in any way, under whose authority did they do that? Because they should not be able to do that without action by the board. Secondly, to the extent that multiple members of the board were involved in this in any way, the question is whether it's in violation of the open meeting statute. And I am concerned about the fact that oftentimes groups of individuals, and mind you, I've been in a variety of these situations in public office as well, casual conversations can become meetings and it can become a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So in that regard, I'd like to understand that as well. The third thing I'd like to understand is how the board is going to take action of any form on a contract that they were not involved in negotiating. You know, I recognize what Representative Case had to say, that there were things that were produced a couple of years ago. Okay, that means that the board had a couple of years to look at those things and to, in a very meaningful way, take action on them. But having something come up at a meeting that people saw a day before at best seems to be just unconscionable. So those are the questions I would hope would be asked. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? No, I'm sorry, come on in. I'm just making sure everybody signs in as they speak. But we do have public comment afterwards. Go ahead.
Thank you for your time. My name is Robin Lundwa, 9 Burke Street. I'm here tonight with a little bit of a different agenda than other folks, but I'm here to advocate for the class of 2039. 23 members of the class of 2039 began their academic journey this year in pre-K3 at Hinsdale. 2 of those students are my twins. When they entered our school district, they entered into something far more than just an educational program. They entered into a social contract. They committed to showing up every day with curiosity, excitement, and a genuine desire to learn. They committed to working hard, absorbing new skills, making new friends, and laying the groundwork for a lifetime of learning. And I'm proud to say they upheld their end of the contract. They brought their best to school each day, enriching our community and growing alongside their fellow little scholars at Hinsdale. In return, the Winchester Public School System made a commitment to them. They were promised continuity in their educational journey. They were told they were ensured a full-day pre-K4 program next year, one that would further strengthen their kindergarten readiness and dramatically improve their chances of long-term academic success. I understand that while our youngest learners in the system have upheld their commitment, that the school board is considering abandoning theirs. If the education budget is cut, I understand the full-day pre-K program, but current pre-K3 students could be reduced to a half-day program or cut entirely. I also understand that even if the program survives budget cuts, that in an attempt to serve more students with limited resources, there are discussions of changing and restructuring the selection process for pre-K4, potentially excluding some or all of the current pre-K3 students who've already started their journey in the Winchester Public Schools. I implore you to reconsider these potentialities. If your aim is to cut the budget, I ask you to find cuts that don't cut student learning hours or remove students from their classroom entirely. To ask the 4-year-olds of our town to pay for budget shortfalls quite literally with their early education is unconscionable. If your aim is to broaden participation in the preschool program, I ask you consider alternatives to engaging future students that don't cause you to abandon the commitments that you have made to the young learners who are already enrolled. I urge you to commit to reject all cuts to the preschool program, and I urge you to make that commitment today to enable families to plan for the next school year and to minimize the disruption to the education of our youngest learners. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Hi, Jen Berga, 378 East Wakefield. I'm just concerned about a 10-year contract just because of the changes that are happening in our community. And right now, there's a decreasing student population in a lot of the towns in the northwest corner, and that might continue. And that seems like you need more flexibility than this 10-year contract. I'm also hoping that it would be posted and available for the public to see. And the other concern I have is that last year it took 3 tries to pass the budget and things get cut, and it just seems that our K through 6 system seems to suffer, and I'm worried about that also. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Matthew Smith, 662 East Wakefield Boulevard. I would just say that, you know, Jay mentioned this study that was brought forward, the study of the funding process for the Gilbert School that was done on May 8th, 2023. And, you know, that this hasn't been looked at or taken care of or moved forward. I know, Nora, you've been here for 10 years, and I was actually kind of shocked before, sitting there knowing Robert's rules and everything, and you as the moderator, you know, chastising the board, and how you were indignant with the fact that this was brought forward without you knowing it. I think opposite. I think this is great. I mean, if other people on the board have an idea to bring something together and to bring Gilbert and the WPS together, that would be a wonderful breath of fresh air. And this community needs that. It needs strong thinking. It needs people going and looking into things, making things better. And to say that maybe Gilbert isn't fiscally responsible and they're looking for a budget of $270,000 and the WPS is looking for significantly more dollars than that, $1.2 million, $1.3 million. I'm wondering which one is more fiscally responsible. But I think it is the board's responsibility to look out of the box, to look forward, and to make a change, and to bring this community forward, and to make sure the public school that we have here, the schools that we have here, are the best that we can have. And if that is working with Gilbert hand in hand and having synergy between the two schools, more for it. That's great. And you have great minds here, all you people on the board. And I think you can get this done. So I would keep looking forward, looking for better ideas. And when a contract comes forward or an idea comes forward from anyone on this board, look at it strongly, let it go through its due process. I'm sure there'll be discussions about this contract, and go forward and see how it works out for the town. I'm sure change can always be a good thing. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, approval of the minutes. The minutes of the Board of Ed meeting March 11th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 11th, 2025.
Thank you, Renee.
Renee.
Second? Jeanette? Are there any edits or changes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Well, we do voice vote
All right.
because we have Shane.
Shane, is he still there?
Shane, do you accept the minutes?
Yes, I accept the minutes.
Tori Levetri, yes.
Jonathan Morehart, abstain.
Kurt Warner, yes.
Sandra Strubar, yes.
Nora Makarski, yes.
Renee Waldron, yes.
Jeanette Broder, yes.
Thank you, everyone. Motion passes, or the minutes pass. Item 6, communications. Item A, chairperson's comments. I do want to just make mention that we have spring break coming soon in the community, and I think that's a well-earned time to take the break. We've had a long haul since February where there really hasn't been any time off, and I know that that is a long haul for people, and I hope we all come back ready for the next and the final stretch, focus on all that bit and finishing up strong. I just want to thank you, colleagues on the Board of Ed who went out last night to listen to the Board of Selectmen presentation of the budget. Sandra, Jeanette, Renee, Jonathan, it was good to see. I just want to shout out a few more dates just to see if others would like to come out. The Board of Selectmen is meeting again on the 10th, that's this week, the 17th, and then the 21st. They're due to publish the whole entire budget on the 25th to the community. The proposed annual meeting at the Gilbert School Corp is on the 12th, on Monday. A recommended referendum day is Tuesday, May 27th, just to shout those days out. I do have to say, I think we've noticed more and more parents come out, more and more parents speak on behalf of the board budget. I think that's very indicative of a new direction that the community has taken, the interest in education and the value of education. I think that's a very positive message to the community, and I'd like to see that keep continuing on. Item B, student representative reports.
Super. Ellie, you're up first.
Hello, my name is Ellie Dombrowski. I am in 2nd grade. I am going to tell you about what has been happening at Hinsdale School lately. Recent school events are grade 1 students went to Kids Play, where they used their imagination and teamwork to solve problems. Pre-K students had a visit from the Connecticut Science Center where they explored with bubbles during Bubbleology program. We are also excited to announce that we will be hosting an art and music showcase this spring, along with a spring music concert. More information to come soon. I am going to share something neat that students in each grade level have been learning. Pre-K has been learning about what plants need to survive, like water, sunlight, nutrients, air, and soil. Kindergarten has been learning about Christopher Columbus and other early explorers to the Americas. First grade has been learning about animals and their different habitats. They are learning where animals live and how they adapt to where they are living. Second grade is learning about insects, their habitats, and how they interact with each other. One thing I'd like to see happen at Hinsdale is more playground room for the pre-K and kindergarten. One thing I really like about school is the teachers and how they help the students with kindness. Thank you for inviting me.
Great job, Ellie. Thank you so much, and thank you, Ms. Field, for making that happen. From Pearson School, we have Cecilia Rylander.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Rylander. I am in 3rd grade. I'm going to tell you what has been happening at Pearson School lately. School activities and events. Pearson students are currently preparing to take Smarter Balanced Assessments, which start this month. We have been practicing for SBAC, taking IABS interim assessment blocks, which are mini practice tests like SBAC for reading, writing, and math. We will be celebrating Earth Day on April 22nd. Something neat that the students have been learning. 3rd graders are studying ancient Rome. In math, we are learning about multiplication and division. 4th graders are reading and writing about contemporary fiction. In math, they are reviewing multiplication and division. 5th graders are starting a unit of study on the Reformation period. In math, they are finishing the geometry unit. 6th graders are studying characters in fictional literature. In math, they are learning to multiply and divide decimals. School improvements or needs. My class discussed some ways to improve the school day. More fun educational activities like the fossil dig and science. Our class discussed with Miss G and Miss Sam how we can be kinder and listen to our teacher more. One great thing, being able to see and learn with my friends. Thank you for inviting me.
Great job, Cecilia. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Cecilia. Very nice job. Well done. Thank you, parents, for coming out and supporting the students tonight. I think it's fantastic to see the work here. Item C, Superintendent's report.
Okay. I'll hit just a couple of highlights. Actually, a lot of the things I was going to share with you from the classrooms, the kids did such a great job telling you. One of the things that I think is great is that Pearson and Hinsdale operate in sync and tend to do whatever day we're celebrating, it's district-wide. And so, for example, we had Autism Awareness Day, Down Syndrome Awareness Day, Crazy Socks, Wear Blue, all kinds of fun things, but they tend to be across schools, which I think is just very nice. Recently, our sixth graders went to Sound Waters down in Bridgeport, and by all reports, the learning of it was fascinating. The bus ride was a lot. That was the feedback from the kiddos. We are getting ready to see our school production of Matilda. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the climate circles. We are going into all classrooms, pre-K 6, focus group style, based on some of the feedback that came out of the kids' surveys. The kids in their surveys wished, some of the things that they reported as not great are the fact that kids are not necessarily kind to one another and not necessarily as kind to the adults as they wish they were. So we've been going into all the classrooms. The administrators have been running circles with the kids, asking them to tell us more about that. What does that look like? What does that sound like? Help us understand what you mean, because that's coming off a yes and no survey question. So gathering some good data, and then also while we're there asking the kids, well, what can you commit to? And having the kids sign a class compact of ways that they could be kinder, all in an effort to improve school climate. At our next meeting, I'm hoping to have a more full report about that for you. As we're going around, we're taking pictures of those compacts, and Ms. G from Pearson School, I think, is going to do that presentation for you when we've finished all the classrooms, but I'm glad we're getting around to all of them. Exciting news, actually. I should have done this first and helped them out, but I am excited to introduce to you two very important people tonight. We have run our process, and I have here this evening to introduce to you Mr. Michael Manson and Ms. Jessica Micchio, who are our SSOs. Jess will be joining us at Hinsdale School. She has great background. She has worked in school security. She's also, she's done school security in a specialized setting. You know, we talk about sometimes where when our kids go to outplacements. She has been working in an outplacement setting. So she has a really robust experience with schools. And when the teacher earlier this year left, they've actually had her stepping in and helping in a teaching role as well. So she has a lot of experience in and around students. She's also been a recycling enforcement officer in Greenwich and has worked in construction. She will be at the Hinsdale School, and she will start the Monday after break. So, Jess, do you want to come say hello? I should tell you, we had lots of applicants, and Tom said he loved our process and would be bringing it with him to other districts. We brought our educator hats to the arena. He brought the security hat to the arena, but we said, okay, but we still want to see these folks interact with kids and really get to know them. So we did ask all of our candidates to go into classrooms and do a little introduction with kids and an activity so that we could really assure ourselves that the people we were selecting would be a great addition to our school community. And focused as we were on increasing school climate, that having safety officers will increase safety as well as be a great support to who we want to be as a school community. So our second safety officer, who will start as a regular school safety officer, but once we do all the things we need to do in terms of MOUs and whatnot, has the ability to be an ASO. Mr. Michael Manson is a retired Hartford police officer. He's led the SWAT team. He's taught in the academy. He is retired from the Army. He's been a volunteer fireman, lives nearby in Torrington, and is going to be an incredible addition to the Pearson faculty. So, Mike, say hello.
Hi, very shy. I'm excited. I thought it was really cool to be asked to go in and get student feedback. Thought that was pretty amazing. When we did our interviews and stuff, we had teachers and parents and everything. And the big thing I took away from all of it was how every single person just truly wants to be at the school. Like the principal knows every kid and what they've had for lunch, and the whole school is like that. So in looking to get back into it, I kind of took a break because I'm raising my granddaughter, which is awesome. But it's a little different at 50 than it is at 20. So I'm I'm super excited to be here, and I think that Jess and I are gonna really help make everything kind of come together a little better. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you both are welcome to stay because apparently our meetings are interesting these days, but you're also welcome if you have lives to return to. They both graciously came out tonight on short notice. As follow-up, if I haven't said it previously, because I'm not sure I have, the boiler's done, like done,
Completely.
completely, really done, and hasn't broken yet, so, like done. I wasn't sure if I ever closed that loop and said done, but really done. In addition to the teacher negotiation that we did this fall, we have 3 more contracts to be negotiated this school year. Nurses, custodians, and secretaries. We've already had a meeting with the nurses union. We have only 2 nurses, so it's a different kind of negotiation, I think, a little bit. But we had a great meeting, and I think we probably were able to do it in one meeting. We have some back and forth to do just by email now, writing up what we talked about, but I think that one's gonna go quickly, well and done. And 2 more that are kicking off sometime in the next couple weeks. I've been going around to faculty meetings. I've done Pearson, Hinsdale. I'll be meeting with the faculty up at Gilbert, and then all of the non-certified folks on a different day to do a deeper dive sharing of the findings from the climate self-study. Ultimately, that will culminate with a big report and some goal setting. So we're getting there. DCF is interested in setting up an outpost in the schools, so I've been in chats with them. Very interesting concept. Our spring conferences, I have to say with a little bit of amazement, were again incredibly well attended. 94% of Pearson parents and 95% at Hinsdale parents show up for conferences, which is remarkable, particularly for spring conferences. I don't know that you see that most places. And one thing I forgot to include on here, I attended a great event. AMP hosted sort of like a future-focused evening. Paul Harrington and I were there together about the community and where we're headed. It was really about where they're headed as an American Mural Project organization, but it was fun to be included in that as a member of the community, so it was great. And just on my upcoming important dates, have changed since we published the packet. April 14th is no longer a Board of Selectmen meeting. That was from Paul. Didn't end up that way. So as Nora said there, this Thursday would be the 10th, and then the following Thursday, the 17th. So don't go by that. And kindergarten registration is coming up. So I think that's it for my report for now.
Does anybody have any questions for Julie?
Just the one with the DCF about potential outpost partnership. You'll bring us more information about that?
Absolutely. And let me say, because when I first heard it, I was like, you want to do what? It's not about the making reports. It's about they would have a social worker with us who would be on hand. For instance, that person could attend our attendance committee meetings and help us come up with new and exciting ideas of ways to improve attendance, and would be a resource to families, but it isn't about, like, they wouldn't be taking reports or making reports. So it's a supportive piece. It's a little bit just an office. Like, it's not exactly a full-blown partnership, but they'd be predictably on site maybe 1 day a week. It sounded so interesting when I sat with Carla. When she first reached out, I was like, you want to do what? But it actually seems like it could be very beneficial.
Thank you.
Did you say with the climate self-study you'd be up at Gilbert with the faculty there?
Yes. So for the staff survey, we didn't survey Gilbert kids because that's sort of outside of our purview, but we did survey Gilbert staff. So I'll be going to a department meeting up there to give the staff the same information that I'm sharing with the Gilbert and Pearson staffs about all of the data that we collected.
So it's not just special ed, our special ed up there?
No, I'm meeting specifically with our special ed up there.
Okay, just our special.
Yeah,
Okay.
just our people.
Great. Okay, thank you. Just to remind everybody, committee meetings, they didn't meet this past March, so just a reminder, the next one is the 22nd of April. Okay?
And if I've got notes on things from our last meeting here that people wanted on there, but if there's anything else when we get to the end and it says like future items or whatever, feel free to guide me what you need on there. And Sandra, we should probably meet, and there's another one of those updates from Shipman.
For policy.
For things that have changed in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Since we just approved them.
Yeah.
Is it on as an information item, or is it only there as part of my thing? Oh, no, okay, so just as part of superintendent's report. So I did include, this went out by email, the district climate self-study update. This went to families a few weeks back, but it is just a little bit of a summary of some of the student-parent data, some of the things we're noticing, and a reminder of the definition of school climate and what the next steps are. But I did include it for you in case you didn't see it by email, because it captures a lot of stuff that will ultimately be in the full-blown report, but it's a nice one-pager.
Any questions about the climate?
I mean, I feel like it's interesting to see the percentage of students who feel like the students are kind to adults is only 76.5%.
That jumped out at us
Yeah.
as well. The cool thing is you ask those kinds of questions and you get information like that, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what to do about that. But it was, I think resoundingly what came through is that kids are watching each other, and it makes them uncomfortable when they're not nice to other kids and when they're not nice to the grown-ups. And they want that to be better, so that's so much to work with.
Thank you, Julie. Item D, committee reports, Finance Committee. That was canceled, as I mentioned before, that was scheduled on March 25th. It was canceled because we had a budget process on that Tuesday. In fact, it was the budget hearing at Pearson School. So because the times clashed, we went to cancel that. But it's good to see Jay here because we were talking about excess cost share, excess cost monies flat, excess cost share monies not moving. So I'm glad you're here because anything will help us as a school district to try to make up the differences to help us out with our costs. Item E, liaison reports, Gilbert School Corp.
We have a new ASO, Officer Rivera, we welcome him. And also, there was a public recognition of Patrick Brintle, Head of Guidance, named Connecticut Counselor of the Year.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you for that. And item F, correspondence to the board. Does anybody have any correspondence? Okay. Item 7, information items, enrollment.
Okay. I'm just going to tell you, you have the information here. Nothing really striking has occurred in terms of mass exodus in or out. Things are just bobbling right along.
Beautiful.
Spirit of keeping things moving right along. I will draw your attention, if I can go to the next one, though, to the attendance data. I am relieved and pleased to point out that things are going in the right direction, which does suggest that last month lows were in fact likely seasonal ailments. As someone who's getting the late version of the flu here or whatever I'm underneath, I think it's mostly behind us now. I think we're in much better shape. Our chronic absenteeism rate is, well, the lowest it's been since school opened. And our attendance is correspondingly just about the highest it's been since school opened. So the efforts of the school teams are clearly making a difference, and the germs leaving town as possible, probably also working in our favor.
Yep.
So, two very good things.
I think also the continuity of school. You know, we've had very few breaks between February's presidential break, that winter moment, and now. So you get into a habit and a routine. I think that does help. I don't know if you all agree, but that's good to see, really good to see. Okay, personnel?
Personnel report. The one thing I'll draw your attention to here is under current vacancies, we are being mindful about not filling a vacancy if in fact, for example, the paraeducator for Gilbert, we know that we need to take a reduction, so that's one that we are not filling rather than hire someone and lay them right back off again. So we are watching these and using them as, rather than take a job away from someone. We did have to lay off 2 people who were in jobs that there wasn't going to be a vacancy in. But we're using the vacancies for the other 2 and limping along to get out the school year and then reorganize. Okay.
Monthly budget summary, speaking of limping along.
Okay, so, again, I'm just gonna, you have all the data here. I'll draw your attention to a few things that sort of caught my eye as I looked. As she does, Nancy is keeping us in the black to end the school year. To make that happen, you'll see on the budget third quarter snapshot that is requiring a hard dip into the MOE 660 line, which is, you know, what stands between us and the end of the world as we know it. So that's right now requiring a bunch of that to get us there, and I'll share a little more detail. If you turn to the more detailed page, and I'll point out a couple areas. First thing that caught my eye on this page, the estimated adjustments. I was curious, the estimated adjustments is where Nancy does that thing that only she can do, which says, well, it's not encumbered yet, but I know what's coming because this is not my first rodeo. And I said, so how are you anticipating money going into the wage line? That seems kind of suspect. And she reminded me, wise as she is, that we pay up front for the lunch program and that we get reimbursed from the federal lunch program, which is why that number has money coming into a wage line, which otherwise had me stumped. So in case you were wondering, that definitely caught my eye. The areas where we're most underwater are pupil transportation and special ed out-of-district tuition. No surprise there. The pupil transportation is partially special ed transportation, but the other big chunk of it is the McKinney-Vento transportation. I'll remind you, we've talked about the fact that in recent years it's become that if a student becomes homeless on our end and is taking shelter in another town, we have to split the cost with that town to bring them back here for their education if that's what they want. And similarly, if a student from another district is staying in Winstead for shelter and needs to go back to where they come from, we split the cost of that. So whether they're ours and being brought back or someone else's and being brought that way, one district arranges it and everybody splits the cost. In past years, we've spent maybe $2,000, if that, in McKinney-Vento. This year, we're already past 20 to 30,000 with probably another 30,000 encumbered. One of the things I'm aware of is we have, I think, a group setting, like a placement in town that is taking families, which, thank goodness that it exists, but I think that's part of why, is that we have more people coming into town when they're homeless. I have to learn a little bit more about that, but so between that and outplacements, those are a couple of the biggies that are running over budget. And
Just so I heard you right, McKinney-Vento, half paid by the receiving and half paid by the sending.
exactly.
Okay.
So on the next to last, the grant budget page. If you want to go down there in numerical order, I'll just draw your attention. I think we'll talk about it in a minute, but that is the ARP ESSER 690 line, the 44,000 with 4,000 pulled. That's the high dosage tutoring. I'll talk to you more about that. I'm 99% certain that's on as an information item, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'll hold that a minute till we get there. And I'll just draw your attention, line 682 is the affectionately called 660 line, which as you can see is, we started the year about 460, and right now about 100 of that is headed into transportation, and 100 of it is headed into special ed tuition.
Transportation as the McKinney-Vento and
Transportation to outplacements,
to
right.
special ed transportation. Wow, okay. McKinney-Vento, special ed transportation. So that's yielding us 253. Okay.
And the last thing I would just show you is the food service budget. At this point, to make it all balance out, the district is spending about $17,000 to run a school lunch program. You know, in some moments I think, shoot, we're supposed to be cost neutral, and then I remember, well, I mean, we are running a program there. We have all these people who show up every day and make the lunches and serve the lunches, and the lunches are paid for, and most of the cost of running the program is paid for. So the fact is, for $17,000, we managed to feed the world. She said a little facetiously, I apologize, but it could be so much worse than that. So
$402 left.
with $402 left, yes, the magic of Nancy. And the meal page in the back is the same as you looked at last month, just based on the earliness in the month of this meeting. Next month, you'll see March. So this, you don't need to relook at that, you've already seen it.
So Julie, at the very bottom, in terms of our operating budget, you know, after everything's been encumbered in the Nancy magic, we're looking at $1,000 left over at the end of the close of this year. Okay.
Right.
No wiggle room. Okay. Thank you. Okay, item E, unless anybody has any questions about the budget for Julie. Okay, item E, handle with care.
Is Joy here? No Joy, okay. Handle with care, there should be a flyer in the packet, right? Is something that the state of Connecticut has jumped into. I think it's actually national. Other states are doing this, and it's really a police department program. But in addition to the 3 towns, Enfield, North Haven, and East Hampton, that are doing this, it's a partnership between the police department and the school district. It's not really complicated. It's simply that if the police are out in the evening to a situation where there is a child present that could be traumatic, maybe a big motor vehicle incident, a house fire, or domestic violence, somebody has a heart attack in their home, really anything that a child might have been present to that could be upsetting to them. The police department is committing to, they have literally like a little form they're going to fill out that will get notification to the principal of the school, just to say, sharing no information other than second grader Sandra was witness to a traumatic event last evening. Please handle with care. Thus the name. And in fact, Sergeant Hubbard does that currently. She'll send a note and say, just to let you know, your student so-and-so was present at an event last night, which is so helpful to us because kids can come in and be impacted. And some kids will express that externally, and we're like, what's going on? And some kids will go internal, and you might not see it and be aware. So that heads up allows us to really do a better job with kids. So we're excited about that partnership.
Do parents need to opt in for that sort of thing, or that just happens?
It just happens. Okay. And again, they're not sharing any information as to the nature of what happened. Again, they could have been standing outside the market when there was a car crash in the street. Like, it doesn't have to be their stuff.
Domestic violence, they would have to, you wouldn't want to.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yes.
That's your funding update.
Okay. So ESSER funding update. We all, I think at this point, saw and were aware that there was a cutoff of some funding, and it wasn't entirely clear what that was. So one of the things I will say to you is ESSER funding or COVID money has come in a lot of different names, and there's ARP ESSER, ARPA ESSER, COVID relief. Initially, we sort of made the assumption it was all COVID money. As it turns out, it was very specifically 3 grants that we received, 2 of which are long since expended and gone. The remaining impacted grant was the high dosage tutoring grant, and we used that last spring and this fall for math tutoring with a company called Catapult, who came out and did that tutoring at the school. I think the school was really happy with the tutoring that was provided. The way the grant was set up was that when it was done, they would bill us and we would pay it. The way grants such as this one are set up is that once you pay the bill, then you go into the grant system and submit and get reimbursed. You can't take the money until you've spent the money. So we literally spent the money and paid it, I'll say late February, and we're queued up in March to draw it down. And as we sit here today, you want to say well, why didn't you draw it down the very next minute? We had an entire year left on that grant to draw it down, so hindsight's 20/20, and I'm sure from now on in we'll be drawing down on the day that you can, to the extent that we can with a very small business department. But so although we're all kind of kicking ourselves, we're saying we had a year. It wasn't like I don't know about you, but I haven't filed my taxes yet. I've got 4 more days. But this wasn't that. We literally had a year left for that, and $40,000 is in the wind right now. They've set up a meeting for Thursday of this week to give us more information. The state was looking for either an extension or an exception. We actually had expended the funds. We had done the stuff, paid the bill all before that March 28th date. So if anyone is going to get any leniency with that, we think we have a good shot because we met all the deadlines other than drawing down. So we're not giving up. We'd love to get it back because $39,000 is real money that we didn't plan on spending that way, but that is the current state of affairs. So
is there an appeals process that we can go through too?
Well, so that's what the state will tell us on Thursday. The state is appealing to the federal government right now because it's a federal cutoff, right? So the money starts federal, goes to state, from state to us, and it got cut between federal and state. State is appealing to federal, and they'll let us know how that's going. And if they're successful, I guess an interesting question would be if they're not successful, is there an avenue for us to say to the state, tough bananas, you still promised us the money, but I'm guessing they don't care. But really, our deal wasn't with the federal government, our deal was with the state. So we shall see. Please.
So we're one of 25 districts in this situation, so it's not just us.
And some had bigger.
Yeah, it was probably a situation.
And, we were being, some people got money and just gobbled it up and spit it out. A, we're small, so it takes a while to spend your way through all that tutoring money. Yep. But B, we were responsible in making it last as long as we could. No good deed goes unpunished.
So if we're out 40,000, that would be a 660 thing too, wouldn't it?
Possibly, yeah.
And that's not factored into the current financials.
No.
Yeah.
That's why I had a
Right,
star on it
right.
on my page. I was like, Nancy? So that would be another 40,000 hit to where we are.
Okay. Any further questions on ESSER, high dosage tutoring? Okay, update on budget process G.
So where are we? So is it possible it was the last time we were all together? When you all completed your due diligence and
Cut
voted on a
250.
budget to put forward?
Yep.
The 250 hurt, and yet I found as I was talking about our budget, it made it very easy to say we've not increased our footprint, the things we wanted. We gave something up to have those. So we put it forward, and we are now a line, of course, in the town budget, which, as you know, we shared, is that just last night? Last
Yep.
night?
Yep.
There will be meetings Thursday night and the following Thursday night. And we're just sort of waiting to see what happens at this point, I guess.
And the subsequent Monday night as well.
Yes, and on the 21st, which would be the last opportunity probably for anything to happen. I think when we put this on here, I had absolutely no idea what would happen at last night's meeting. I thought I might have had more to say. But last night was more just Paul doing his presentation, which he did a super job of.
It's on the town website if you're interested. There's 2 docs sitting there. Okay, all right.
And I think the only thing I would add is we've had really wonderful parent support of people who are engaged, paying attention, and excited to support the schools. And they're making me a t-shirt, one of the sets of parents, so that when I go to the ball field and I don't look like a stalker, for people who don't know me, it's gonna say like, ask me about the budget. So so when I'm hanging out there, that somebody's not like, who's that weird lady? Well, they may still say that, but,
Opening day is the 21st.
okay, I'll be there with my t-shirt. I'm hoping they got long sleeve. I'm a little bit, with the cold weather. I was never a good baseball mom. So I think that's it for me.
Just for your information, one of the things that Paul did is he included a slide that talked about what your cost would be for a family if you owned a house at property 1, property 2, the scenarios. That way, persons can see what the hit would be on the increase ask. That might be helpful for people if you're going to advocate for the budget and kind of set it in that sort of frame of reference for people. I thought that was really good. That was informative.
Oh, the one other thing I did want to share is just in watching his presentation and hearing him talk about capitals and realizing there are town capitals in the town budget and there are Gilbert capitals in the Gilbert budget inside of our budget. None of our capital stuff made it into any budget. So just know that. It's not in the town line, it's not in our budget. So.
One of the
So
things,
it's going to keep raining in the 6th grade classrooms.
yeah, that roof on Pearson is still a problem.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
I can show you pictures. It's pretty icky.
I've seen them.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, item 8, action items.
So what I am handing out is the motion that I am presenting right now, as well as a proposed contract with the Gilbert School. All right. So I am making a motion to start the due diligence process to review and ultimately accept the attached agreement between the W.L. Gilbert School Corporation and the Winchester Board of Education after appropriate review of legal counsel. The rationale behind this: the Gilbert School and the town of Winchester have a long history dating back to 1895, when it began serving as a high school to the students of Winchester. Then, in 2010, the town reached an agreement with the school to also send their 7th and 8th grade students, which began in the fall of 2011. Since 2015, this arrangement has operating without a net, as both the school and the Winchester Board of Education have been unable to agree on a contract. The lack of a contract has put a strain on the relationship between the town and the school, while also putting the town at some financial risk. Without a contract, the town is obligated to pay fully for potential capital repairs that are needed to upgrade the aging infrastructure of the Gilbert School without the benefit of partial reimbursements for the state. The state currently reimburses appropriate capital expenditures on school properties at a rate of 73% of the total costs. On May 28th, 2023, the Commissioner of Education, Charlene M. Russell Tucker, issued a study of the finding process for the Gilbert School, which was mentioned earlier, and which I have here. The Gilbert School is currently one of 3 endowed high schools or academies in the state of Connecticut, along with Norwich Free Academy and the Woodstock Academy. The study, which was requested by the town and completed by the State Board of Education, is very thorough and recommends the Winchester Board of Education and the Gilbert School enter into a long-term arrangement that provides for specific methodology for calculating regular and special education tuition. Lastly, the study concludes, we believe a long-term agreement would also resolve or at least mitigate the annual discord that arises when tuition rates are set versus the proposed change to statute to require arbitration or mediation, which would allow the current situation to continue, but just provide a specific mechanism for resolution. It is obvious from the state report that a long-term contract is recommended and would benefit both the Gilbert School and the Winchester Board of Education, as well as the town of Winchester. At the budget presentation by our superintendent, Julie Luby, to the Board of Selectmen, there was a mention of the lack of a contract between the Gilbert School and the town of Winchester. This motivated our representative, Jay Case, to reach out to Commissioner Russell Tucker, who provided legal support and direction on bringing forward an appropriate contract for the Gilbert School and the town of Winchester. Representative Case then provided the state with a contract from the head schools of the Gilbert School, Greg Chagru, who put together the contract based on recommendations in the study of the finding process for the Gilbert School. Recommendations from the state council were then added into the document, and that is the contract I am submitting to you, the Winchester Board of Education, today. Entering a long-term contract with the Gilbert School will allow us to unify and collaborate to ensure that our town's children will receive the best possible education and experience from pre-K through their senior years at the Gilbert School. Personally, I would embarrassingly like to add that my 30th reunion is coming up next year from the Gilbert School. And I've been a member of this community for a long time. I went into coming onto the board with a misunderstanding of the relationship between Gilbert and the Winchester Board of Education. I came into this thinking Gilbert was a problem. I now realize we are both the problem. We are concentrating on the problem and not a solution. I hear a lot of we and them and not a lot of us. And for our kids, us is the most important thing. We need more collaboration between Gilbert and the town. And this is the solution to move us forward. Thank you.
You're not the first to express the concern between the relationship between the two systems. And I don't think you'll be the last. This issue's been around since pre-20 years. There had been contracts, and then there had been 2 attempts to make additional contracts. And I will just have to tell you, the thing that gets held up, people are great. It's not about the people. It's not about the people sitting at the school corp and the board. It is about the law. And it all boils down to, when I served on the corp, even Chick was a timer who served on the school corp. He and I both agreed, it's the money. It all boils down to 10-34, when the town has to cut the budget. Who takes on that cut? And that is where the discussions break down. So, we tried a an agreement.
Point of order, question.
This
Is
is
this
just,
discussion, is there a second on the motion? Are you having discussion on the motion? I'm just asking.
I didn't hear a motion. I think this is discussion.
Well, there was a motion, is there a second? I second.
Okay, well, then we're having discussion.
Okay.
And the motion is to, just for clarification for Lenice?
She does have a copy.
This whole thing is the motion then?
Yes.
Well,
I am making a motion to start the due diligence process to review and ultimately accept the attached agreement between the William L. Gilbert School Corporation and the Winchester Board of Education after appropriate review of legal counsel.
And it's been seconded.
by Jonathan. Okay, discussion. Okay, let's back up a little bit. We need to slow this roll. And let me tell you why we need to slow the roll. Okay? There are things called clawback provisions. There are things that are called 10-33, 10-34. There have been multiple contracts in the past that need to be reviewed. There have been multiple attempts to create memos of understanding that need to be reviewed. There needs to be understanding of why the impasses existed in the past. There needs to be a Shipman and Goodman report that was given to the Winchester Board of Ed on this relationship that needs to be reviewed. You've read the state of Connecticut's report. I've read the state of Connecticut report, which is a recommendation. We do need to review the statements from past Board of Ed members. We do need to review the attempts of the Board of Selectmen to appeal to the State General Assembly. We need to look at testimony that was made during COVID to advocate change in 10-34. We need to look at past financial trends that exist between the Gilbert School Corp and the Winchester Public Schools. We need to look at who's been receiving the lion's share of the increases. We need to look at what happens when the budget gets cut, who has been assuming the responsibility and all of that. We need to look at when, after the referendum was passed, this board agreed to give the Gilbert School Corp in 1 year an additional $100,000 because the Gilbert School Corp overbilled us by accident. We need to look at the year that we took down our savings to $1,900 so we can help pay for the Gilbert increase of $600,000 in a year to help them meet their commitments. We need to look at when this board, prior to most of any of us here, had voted to give Gilbert 7th and 8th grade, and we need to try to understand why is it that an agreed finance committee has never met as part of an agreement for why when 7th and 8th grade went up to Gilbert schools. That was called a finance committee that was supposed to be formed as a way to address the financial issues. We need to understand why that has never met. We need to understand all of that before we commit the taxpayer to 10-34, which I don't see here. Any mandated arbitration or mediation in this proposed contract, I don't see it. When this community votes no in a referendum, what does Gilbert do? They have a shield called 10-34 that forces us K-6 to take the cut, take the hit, time and time again. If you look at the data after 10 years, the lion's share of the ask has gone to Gilbert. You can argue it's a bigger system. It's a high school. It's got after-school activities. It's got JV and varsity games. That's fine. But we don't sit down and have these discussions with the exception of last year. Typically, we have absorbed the hits because of the 10-3-4, which is why the Board of Selectmen went there, which is why Shipman and Goodman says this. You have to review why a semi-private school has the drive to push a mill rate without public voice that sits on the minority, has no control over that tuition bill. You sit in the minority. It's 4-5. You can't cut their budget when you sit on their board. You're sitting in the minority, so therefore the taxpayer is sitting in the minority. They are a vendor. And here we're not, half this board didn't even see this. Did you guys see this? Did you see this beforehand? Did you see this? Did you see this? Jonathan?
I vote to move the motion forward.
Can I
We
just-
can rant all night. So
Tori,
let's-
when you were on the Gilbert Corp, you tried to put forth an MOU where we would all come together to a meeting and talk about finance. Why did that not go through?
Right, and
Why didn't it go through? Was it
we all know
us?
the reason, Renee.
It wasn't
I'm
us.
moving to move the motion, Kurt's motion to vote at
this time.
I'm not shutting off debate.
No, we're still talking about it. Still talking about it.
Okay,
We're still
wait,
having
wait.
discussion.
I will recognize Renee.
And Kurt, my question to you is, can you please tell me, did you develop this contract overnight by yourself? Can you tell me who worked with you on this?
No, I didn't. So after the meeting, the presentation, I understand that we are gonna continue to have these budgetary
Right, can I
problems.
just ask who you worked on it?
Wait, wait,
Can
no,
you tell me
I'm
who?
gonna, I'm just,
Can you?
but wait, I
No,
just want
I'm
to.
asking Kurt the question,
I
please.
understand,
Can-
but we've had.
I
he's
approached Greg
Answering.
to see, I approached Greg
Greg
to see
Shagru?
if we can come to a resolution, because
Okay.
I feel like being on both boards now,
Right,
I know there's we and them people on each board, and I know there's us people on each board.
okay. So,
And
who
I'm
else
trying
was
to
it?
get to a collaboration
You
aspect
and
of this.
there wasn't, but-
Greg, and who else was
There
it
was
that worked on
nobody
it?
else, and this is where I'm gonna
Just you
step
and
in.
Greg?
No, I'm gonna step in here.
Sandra, I was talking to
I know,
Kurt.
Renee, but also too, Nora,
I will recognize, are you done answering?
I am done
just say
answering.
yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So it's you and Greg.
Thank you.
That's
We've
it.
been chastised
I'm
by
asking
Nora
just a
when we
question
just
of who
wanted to
worked
put
on it.
something on the agenda. There's been aspersions cast by people who have sat at that table. None of us have worked on a contract, okay?
Kurt just said he worked on this.
He
I
did
didn't work
not
on it. I was
work on it. He
presented
was
a contract.
handed.
By, who presented it to
Greg.
you? Greg, so only Greg, so this just came from Greg?
Greg,
Okay, so let's back
To
this
you,
up since we're,
personally?
yes.
since he's on the board.
All right, all right, all right.
I am on the board as
Yeah,
well.
I
I didn't
understand.
get it. I didn't get
You're
it.
also one of the us and them.
Jonathan, did you get this contract from Greg? Jonathan didn't get it, is he,
Okay.
All right,
I don't
okay.
understand where we're going. We
Son.
had the history, right? We had the history lesson. And the history lesson includes a study that was done in 2023, and we were all new on the board, correct? So we remember this study coming in. Doug was our chairman, right? At that time, we had some talk about entering into a Gilbert contract, but I don't know why Doug did not push it forward. We were new, we didn't push it forward, right? So at this time, especially because it was mentioned at your meeting when you presented the budget, right? And there was public comment, and there was public comment about, by you, that we needed more money. So Jay contacted. These are recommendations by the
There is no negotiation of
Just a
the
minute,
contract.
Commissioner of Education. Well, again, the motion is just to enter into negotiations and look at a contract that Greg has provided. I do have a question. I know, has Gilbert been asking this year to start contract negotiations?
I was asked by Holly whether we would have a contract. I said, I don't know.
Right. Have you ever brought that to the board to discuss?
No, I have not.
Correct. So we are, in looking at the study, words that came out of it that, and I know you're talking about 1033, which requires us to, because we don't have a designated high school, we have to maintain, we're required. 1034 is the limitation as to the methodology. That's what you keep referring to. It's a Connecticut statute. There's no way that Gilbert can change that. It's a law. But when you look at the study, the words like collaboration, made in good faith, collaboratively, cooperatively, productive working relationship, this is what Kurt is talking about, which is something that we need to work towards. And the fact that we don't have a contract, Greg talked about, 6 air conditioners on the roof that are going to, these kinds of things, we're talking about being fiscally responsible to the town. These are the things.
But
Okay?
how can we
So-
vote on something we've never even seen?
But this
is the first time I'm seeing this.
But we're not
I'm
voting.
never gonna vote for something I've never
I
seen
understand, but the motion is to start the due diligence process. It's not to say, we are signing this tonight. Go ahead, Shane.
So guys, just 1 minute. So I think Sandra, you brought up a good point, and I think it just kind of got dusted over. So Nora, you were Holly had introduced the idea of a contract, right? And you never.
No, she asked me,
before the board, correct?
she asked me whether we would be interested, and it was 3 months ago, and then since, we have not met with Holly.
Okay, but you never brought that to us as a board, that they were interested in having that, correct? So in the idea of transparency, and also, you expressed at the beginning of this, being very disappointed that you were not informed of this agenda that was changed. So we added this agenda item, and you were very disappointed that it wasn't brought before all. So when we talk about transparency and bringing things forward, that would be as the chairman of this board, not sharing that they were in interest of having that done. Don't you think that we should all be disappointed that you never told us this?
Shane, it takes two to make a contract, and when persons have canceled meetings for 2 months, and when we move ahead with our own discussions, then, we've been with this.
So you're deflecting the question.
No, Shane, you're putting this on me. There's a procedure for this, and the typical procedure is with the superintendents to get together. And when the superintendent canceled 2 meetings in the last 2 months, it makes it difficult for anybody to even continue to have conversations. That's where it's at.
Was that due to health complications that he may have been under?
That I can't speak to that.
Okay.
I can't speak to that.
But regardless, as you as the chair of the board, that was never ever brought up that was even a desire or a want from Gilbert to get that.
But Shane, there's always been a want from Gilbert to start contracts. I mean, that's nothing new. But when I can't meet with the superintendent and we can't move forward because the last 2 months the meetings have been canceled, that is nothing new in the last 3 months that's going to make or break the transparency of this board. That is not, the 3 months are not going to make or break transparency of this board. So what I'm really frustrated about, though, is the process. Is the process.
Just pause for a second. You had your moment to speak. So since 2023, this report has been presented in front of us, right? So we've had an opportunity since 2023, and there's been no movement forward. There's been no, There's been no work towards negotiating a contract because you're still, and as the chair of the board, you kind of lead the board and kind of set the tone, correct? So when there's been no movement forward and there's been no action towards trying to work out a contract because of what has happened in the past and not looking at it from a state, from the state, they're recommending that this would be a thing that we should do. And it's not just Shipman and Goodwin hasn't looked at this, but what has been looked at is the state's attorneys who are experts in this, have looked at that contract. They made amendments to that contract, and it's not just by happenstance that they did this. This has been since 2023. If I'm not mistaken, we're now in 2025.
We are, Shane, and as all board members, we all could have put that on the agenda at any time. And we're all part of that conversation at any time that could happen. And Shane,
But we were not aware that they had introduced this.
And we also have in the past, the superintendents lead this discussion. And we have a new superintendent for the last 6 months who's trying to get a curve going on to learn how we even operate. And in the last 2 months, the superintendent from the other district was unavailable. I don't know why. So don't put the last 3 months on my shoulders about why we're not negotiating, because you all are part of this since 2023 in your election, and you had in your hand the same report, and we have a new superintendent, and by the way, for the last 10 years, it's always been the superintendents that have led the charge. Y'all could have put this on your agenda at any time.
We just did.
Yeah,
So
and we
let's
did.
move it.
And I agree with Jeanette that it's really hard to learn about it tonight to even vote on it.
You were informed yesterday.
We're not voting on the acceptance of it, are we?
No, we're voting on moving it forward and negotiations.
And having legal counsel look
So
at
can we
it.
bring it to a vote, just to bring it to the process?
Please.
No, not yet. I still have one thing I wanted to add.
Say your one thing.
Thank you, Tori, I will.
Please.
All right. So, just so you know, the Gilbert School is different than the Norwich Free Academy and the Woodstock Academy. Although they are similar, that they're quasi-public schools, the Norwich Free Academy and the Woodstock Academy have multiple towns that feed their
Yes.
population. We are in the unusual place where we are the only town that's basically feeding Gilbert.
Right.
So whatever price they give us, like Nora said, based on the law, we have to pay it. Whereas the other Norwich Free Academy and the Woodstock Academy, different towns are putting in and paying for tuition for their students that go there.
Let me
So
ask-
it makes it's different.
Can I ask you a question then? All right.
Oh, and their performance is way better than Gilbert, by the way, their student performance, but that's just
Are we gonna vote now?
aside.
Right, but I just
Well,
want to,
one
yes,
last
let
thing
me
and
just
then
ask
we'll
a
close.
question. If we are able to put in a contract, right, with Gilbert, don't you think that that if they feel that that in good faith, we're signing a contract, that now, because again, last year, they did take the first cut. They took half of the
So
first cut.
half of the first
They
cut.
took half of the first cut.
okay.
They did not choose to take half of the second
And then,
cut.
right, they
Right?
chose not to.
So that's what I'm saying, is when you read the report, words like good faith, I mean, we need to move forward. This relationship is stagnant. We can't keep doing the same hamster wheel. We have new people on the board who are willing to look at it with a fresh perspective, right? When you first, I mean, it was anti-Gilbert on this board when we first came on this board, okay? And
I
now
wouldn't say
so-
it's anti-Gilbert. Gilbert, that's not the point. The point is that we are getting cut every single year.
That's the way the law is.
Exactly, and if we put it into a contract with Gilbert, this is gonna continue to happen. Nothing's gonna stop
It's not
it,
gonna stop
because
it
there's
either
nothing
way,
that can
Renata.
stop it.
We don't
There's
have another
nothing in this
school.
contract
I
that can
understand,
stop
but we
that.
don't have another high school. We're not building a high school. We're not sending our children to regional. So this is our best,
Okay.
okay?
Our best isn't good enough.
We've had the discussion. I now make a motion.
Well, it's already,
motion's on the table.
Shane, it's already on the table,
To move it forward?
to move it forward.
Move it forward,
It-
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I
and-
second that.
And,
I second the motion to move
well,
it
it's
forward.
already made. The first motion is,
To move it.
Let's vote.
to close debate is what you're asking for.
Yes.
Exactly.
Do we have a second to close debate?
Second.
All in favor of closing debate? We need a supermajority.
No, you need to do
Voice
your
vote.
name, voice vote.
Tori LaVetra, yes.
Jonathan Moorhart, yes.
Kurt Warner, yes.
Sandra Strubar, yes.
Nora
Shane
McCarthy.
Cinchella, yes.
Okay. Nora McCarsky, no.
Just so I'm clear,
We're just
we're
closing.
voting to close the debate, not
Correct.
on whether
Correct. Right
we
now,
send
we're
this to
voting to move
lawyers,
it on.
right? Renee Waldron, yes.
Jeanette Broder, no.
Okay, so let me just get this. Janice, Lenice, Tori, Jonathan, Kurt, Sandra, Shane, and Renee. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, to close debate. 2, no. That's 8 of us, right?
Yep.
Okay, math is correct. Okay, so that motion passes to close debate. Now we move to voting procedure to vote for the motion on the floor. All in favor? Let's voice vote.
Tori LaVetra, yes.
Jonathan Moorhart, yes.
Kurt Warner, yes.
Sandra Strubar, yes.
Nora McCarsky? Okay, Shane. Nora McCarsky, no.
Renee Waldron, no.
Jeanette Broder, no.
Okay, this carries. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes, 3 no's, that's 8. That counts, the math works.
Okay.
Okay, item 9,
Wait,
public,
I want to make another motion, because we need to move this to attorney.
oh, that's the motion,
That is
isn't
the
it?
motion we just
That is the
made.
motion.
Right, but I want to make another motion that we use a different attorney than Shipman and Goodwin.
That's a different action.
That is, yeah.
That
Yeah,
wasn't
we
brought up in
can't-
the
It's too
beginning.
late to amend that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Too late to amend that.
Point of order, it's not, because it's right in the front of our motions regarding council, and this is the back, you have to have a chain motion that brings council.
Appropriate rule of legal counsel.
We voted on the
To
main
change the
motion,
council.
which was on the floor, to start the due process review.
After appropriate review of legal counsel.
After the public review
All
of
right.
legal counsel, okay?
So I wanted to make an amendment to our appropriate, I want to make a motion regarding appropriate review of legal counsel. So I know we use Shipman and Goodwin, but we are also, the state has recommended Zabel and Schellenberg out of Orange, Connecticut. They deal in municipal law, like that's their specialty.
So to use Bell and Sherling,
Zabel and Schellenberg.
instead of or in addition to?
It could be instead of, so that we don't have to pay two bills.
Understanding that Shipman and Goodman is our board attorney.
Right. But they're not, I think we should have outside.
But there's, have you ever dealt with them before? And, well, all right, so there's a motion to do it. Do we have a second?
Oh, this is the spelling, Zabel and Schellenberg. Second, anybody?
I'll second.
Do we know how much this is gonna cost us?
Yeah.
I would imagine we're probably gonna have shared costs with Gilbert, right? 'Cause,
Well, that's not
No,
necessary.
this is our attorney, not
We're
theirs.
asking.
This isn't their attorney.
This is our attorney that we're asking to look at this contract for us.
Okay, so
Gilbert's not
we
gonna
have-
share the cost for
We have a
that.
motion on the table for
Zabel and Schellenberg.
Zabel and Schellenberg. First under Jonathan, second. Discussion, further discussion. I think that we have never worked with them before. We don't know who they are. It's just your recommendation that, I don't know if you can second that with another district while they're using, you've mentioned that they're urban, city. Municipal. I think the problem would be then is that you have to deal just with that law firm. You can't go to Shipman at all to see how it affects us. And Shipman does know our relationship. They've been our attorney for over 10 years. They're well aware. They wrote this other piece that they've developed before. So I think that we get into difficult waters when you're dealing with two firms because Shipman will not touch it. And then for 10 years, Shipman will not touch it.
Will not touch the contract.
They won't give us any advice. They will not give us any advice.
Sandra, you said the state recommended them for this?
And are they education lawyers? They need to be
municipal.
education. That's different. They're two different laws, and these are two different specialties as attorneys. And the best attorney out there and the best house is Shipman and Goodman across the state of Connecticut.
For
It handles
education.
well over 60% of the school districts.
This is,
It is
regarding
well known.
education, we're on the board of
Okay,
ed.
but you know what? There's two firms in the state of
That doesn't
Connecticut.
matter.
Shipman is one, and you tell me the other one, I can't tell you what it is, but it's not Zellberg and as urban, rural city
That doesn't
people.
mean it's the best by any means.
Well, people keep buying them.
And how much is it gonna cost us? We're already in a bare bones budget.
We are.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a budget.
I know, how much is this gonna cost? Do we know? What's ballpark?
No.
Nancy?
Did Gilbert agree to the Zellberg group?
I don't know. I have not talked to Gilbert at
Okay.
all.
So I would suggest you postpone your motion until you figure out really like what path we should take with lawyers, because we're gonna spend tens of thousands of dollars on just lawyers. They're not education lawyers. Gilbert works with Shipman, I believe. So you'd wanna work with people in the field that you know.
All right, I will table that.
Who
for
do
now,
they,
though.
oh, no, they have a personal lawyer. They have a personal lawyer.
Oh, right, so why would they want to use ours? That way this is.
Well, it's
a
an
neutral-
education
Well, we
lawyer.
shouldn't have
This
the
is
same
an-
lawyer probably. I mean, if you're negotiating a contract, both sides would have their own attorneys, so that's fine. But, I mean, I don't want to touch any side of this with a 10-foot
I don't
pole.
blame you, Julie.
But I was going to say, as the superintendent, I can certainly explore the firm that you mentioned and find out their rates, and if this is, I mean, I can certainly offer to do some legwork or something if you'd like. I'm not sure at what point this moves into district operations.
Okay.
That's for you all to figure out, really, I guess, but
I would suggest you withdraw your motion until you figure it out.
I will.
All right. Item 9, public comment. Anybody wishing to speak?
Absolutely.
Oh, jeez.
So, just coming forward, I want to put the olive leaf out for Julie. If you'd like to meet with the commissioner and myself to talk about this study and see how this came about, I would love to do that, because I went to the commissioner to try to find more money for the town. And she said, not until she has a resolution here. That's her words, not mine. She has offered legal counsel of her own. I don't know the other legal counsel that's coming up here. Matthew, I'm just saying his first name. So her legal counsel is willing to look at anything the district wants to put forward because she wants to work with us. She wants to make something happen.
Great.
With that, and to the points before, I'm coming up on my 40th anniversary of graduating from Gilbert. Back
Years
then,
old
a
as I
quarter
am.
of the students came from Heartland. They backed out because of the uncertainty of a contract. That's why we don't have two towns. We want to make this happen.
Why did they do that?
We want to make, if I go to the commissioner, that's my job in Hartford, to get the town more money. She's on the phone at 9:30 at night in Washington DC in a hotel room. She says, Jay, get me a resolution to the study and we'll talk about more money. You're an alliance district, your money's not going down, but alliance districts generally do not go up either. They are protected so they do not go lower. There's only 36 of them. It used to be alliance districts with 30. When the district got better, they dropped off, somebody else moved on. Now there's 36, it's legislation. Those 36 stay alliance districts, nobody else adds in. That is legislation now. That changed. The
That
only
I'm familiar with. I don't know the connection between that and Gilbert.
Okay.
So-
That's not. That has nothing to do. I'm trying to say, if I want to get more dollars for you, we need to either break away from Alliance District so we can become in the bigger pool, and we need to do what the commissioner put forward. I did not ask for this study. I've been in the legislature 13 years. This study was asked for somebody in this community. It was put in an 800-page document, about 60 pages in. I asked the question on the House floor, and the chairman of the Appropriation Committee said, somebody in your district asked for this. I said, well, I didn't as the state representative. I asked the question, we have the report, it was done in 2022, submitted in 2023. We have it now. All I can say is after that budget meeting, I went directly to Commissioner Russell Tucker, who spent time here. What do I need to do to help the district? We're struggling. Implement my study, or tell me why you can't. She's not, it says it right in here, she's not changing the statute. The lawyers in Hartford, it says it right in the second page. And there's ways. She said, the attorney called me, Matthew, he says, Jay, have the district look at the Salem contract. It has specific points of funding that gets away from the 1033 statute. We have to approve the budgetary numbers that come from that endowed academy. They work with us on it. They want to partner with the town of Winchester. Let's let them partner. Let's have a conversation, you and I. I'm not saying anybody else on the board, because when I do this and do things with the DOT commissioner, it's me and the town manager. It's gonna be me and you, the superintendent of the schools. We'll set something up, and you and I will have a teams meeting with her. If I can get her up here, I tried to get her up here to Explorations last month. She sent her deputy commissioner. She is a little bit tied up. Deputy commissioner was in town probably about 4 weeks ago over at Explorations. It's hard to get her here, but I tell you, if I twist her arm, she might do it, or you might have to come to my office in Hartford. But she's, I might see her tomorrow. She makes an appointment to see me when I'm in there. Guys, she wants to be a team player. She wants to be us, the state of Connecticut and the town of Winchester. She spent so many months here during our receivership. Our receivership, after we got out of receivership, we got Commissioner Network money. Not everybody gets $5 million from Commissioner Network.
Jay, you got like 15 seconds.
Okay, so listen, she put a ton of money into this district. Let's give her a chance. Julie, you and I, let's have a meeting with the commissioner, and hopefully we can do something for us as the town. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening. Paul Marino, 678 East Wakefield Boulevard, and as full disclosure, I am second selectman in the town of Winstead. So we opened our evening this evening with outrage from members of the audience on, oh, actually the outrage started with you, Nora, on the methodology for bringing this contract forward. And the attorney who's not with us any longer this evening, who's left, stated that she believed even Board of Selectmen were involved in the negotiation of this contract. Let me be very clear. I personally, nor am I aware of any selectmen that were involved in the negotiation of this contract. But if we're going to be outraged, and it's amazing to me that most of the outraged audience isn't here anymore tonight. They didn't bother to stick around to actually see what the action item was, but they were outraged. But I listened to you at our meeting, Nora. You talked about 10 years you've proudly served on this board. Well, we haven't had a contract with Gilbert in 10 years. Shame on this board for that. And to further the outrage, this study was done in '23 and we didn't address this situation. Let's look at the benefits of addressing the situation. First of all, you talk constantly about 1034. 1034 is not going away. It's part of the state statutes. 1033 says because we don't maintain a high school, we have to farm it out. 1034 says the school that we hire to do that can charge us what they want, essentially. However, the study, and I've read the study, clearly talks about specifically the agreement between Salem and East Lyme. And I'd like to read you part of it. According to the state, the cooperative arrangement in place between Salem and East Lyme is notable because it includes specific methodology for calculating tuition, which allows for advanced planning on part of both the parties of the agreement. We can't do that now. We can't have advanced planning because we have no methodology. 1034 is clearly in effect and Gilbert can charge us what they want. A contract benefits the town and benefits our kids. We listened to the head of schools tell us that there's $1.5 million in capital improvements probably coming up next year. Gym floor, air conditioning units, just to name a few. If we have a contract with Gilbert, there's 73% reimbursement as opposed to us writing the entire check. Why would we not want to come to an agreement with the school that has served us well as our high school for a number of years? Now I know, Nora, you're not in favor of a contract. You've stated it clearly on many occasions. But I ask you to open your mind at this time in our history, it's time for a contract. 10 years without a contract makes no sense, and 3 years since this study was done with no action by this board is unacceptable to the people of this town and the kids of our town. It is time to move forward and to have an agreement so that Gilbert can become part of our community in a way that is respectful to them and to the members of our community. It's time to make it happen. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Point of information, did Mel and Greg did bring a contract forward last year that was not, it did not fly with either board, but they did bring a contract forward.
Yes.
Bill Hudock, 232 Granville Road. I'm still confused, forgive me. The motion that you passed said that you were going to be doing due diligence. Not that you're going to enter negotiation. Therefore, you've been given a contract, at least as I understand it, you've been given a contract by Gilbert, and the board is saying you're going to determine whether you're going to accept it or not. That just seems backwards to me. That's why I'm confused. And, you know, I agree with Mr. Marino. The fact that we don't have a contract for this number of years is unconscionable. We are in complete agreement on that. The process, however, should be one, I would think, of both parties coming together, discussing it, figuring out what are the points of agreement and what are the points that need to be resolved, rather than having one party say, here's the agreement. That just seems backwards to me. So I'm confused. I recognize I am not trying to say anything negative about anybody on this board, and frankly, I'd like to thank all of you for the service that you give to the town. That's not the question. The question is, are we going through this without actually entering negotiations, without getting all of the important points on the table, and instead looking at an agreement that was given to us and saying, we're just going to figure out, can we live with it or not? So, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Matt Smith, 662 East Wakefield Boulevard. Mr. Hudak, I think you made a good point, and maybe some clarification is right in the motion itself. And I think if the motion was read the way Kurt read it, without the rationale, but just the motion it said, it asked to look at the contract between Gilbert and between this and the WPS school, and see if their attorneys, the attorneys looking out for the interest of the school system, would like to make changes, edits, reviews, revisions, to see what would best represent the town and the school board in their position on the contract that was brought forward to them by Gilbert. I think that would be the way the process would work. You have to start with something, so you start with a contract that was written based on what the document from 2003 said from the chairperson of the schools in Connecticut, taking that language from Gilbert, giving it now to WPS and their board to look at it, have their attorneys look at the contract. Very important that your representation that would represent you, not both boards, that would represent you and make sure that your best interests are taken care of. And that's what I think their contracts, that their motion said explicitly. So, that's all.
Anyone else wishing to speak? If you could sign in, because I think you're new. Well, you've already signed, but if you can sign in.
Hi, Brian Sunday, 152 Spencer Hill Road. I find myself agreeing with just about everything Kurt said tonight. I'm on board 100%. No bigger Gilbert supporter than me. I want a contract. We should have a contract. I agree with it all. The thing that I just can't get over is I feel like this entire process that we've described tonight to you here is completely gross. And I'm someone who wants a contract. Totally gross and not transparent in any way. And frankly, I think it undermines the effort. Now listen, I want a contract, and I'm glad the conversation has started. This wasn't the way to start the conversation. Clearly, there is a majority of people on this board who want this to happen in some form or another. You could have done it the right way. You could have brought it to the board. You could have talked about it. I haven't heard these conversations happening at Gilbert. This thing dropped out of the blue and nowhere. Again, I want a contract. I want it to happen. I want the stability that Kurt has talked about. But I don't want it at the expense of good government in some way. And I can't imagine that anyone sitting at home who has a parent of children in the school system will watch this meeting tonight, and or frankly a lot of the meetings that have transpired over the last X number of months, will feel comfortable about what is going on in this district and the decisions you guys are making. I mean, we can barely run a meeting here. Meeting after meeting, people can't make motions. They don't know how to do it. There's crosstalk going on. It's just completely out of control. And, I'm just left so disappointed about, the way this has transpired. I just think it's incredibly gross. And, frankly, I'm just disappointed in folks who I thought were committed to those values and doing things properly. And, for me, I support the overall mission of getting there and bringing things together, as Kurt said, but really gross way to go about doing it. And frankly, it leaves me wondering who's actually running the Board of Education, who's pulling the strings here. I'm not sure it's anyone sitting at this table. So again, just very disappointed. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay.
I didn't sign in yet.
Oh,
I'll do that.
okay. Did you want to speak again?
I did.
Okay.
To Brian's point, it has been a frustrating meeting for everybody sitting here, and certainly my frustration was clear in my last presentation to you. The report has 3 copies of contracts in it. It's got examples of contracts that are currently in place with the other academies and the towns that they serve. The Salem East Line one is the recommended one by the state because it has the methodology, it has a method to make sure tuition can be calculated in a way that the town and the academy can plan for. I urge that that contract be looked at as you review whatever contract's being presented to you. The state recommends that. And again, getting this done, what's the downside? 1034 is not going away either way. Whether we have a contract or not, 1034 is in place. They can charge us whatever they want. At least with a contract, they see us as a true partner, and they see us as someone that they can work with, and we don't have the them and us anymore. And it's an opportunity to get in writing an idea of what the budget should be. So don't miss this opportunity. It's gone way too long without it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, item 10, future agenda items. Okay. Item 11, adjournment. I'll make
Motion adjourned.
9:03. Thank you. Yeah, let's, want to vote, please? All in favor?
Yes. Chair Warner, yes.
Sorry, Sandra Strubar, yes.
Shane? Nora McCarskey, yes. All right, that's unanimous.